morning, everyone. So, it's been a while. Um, I am doing my Wheel of Life spread. And you see before you 7 decks. So, what is going to happen right now? Okay, so the Wheel of Life is a life coach tool, a business tool, where I believe it's divided into 9 areas, and people usually will rank their satisfaction in certain areas and then um, make goals to get that satisfaction in those areas up. And it's a way to reassess the year that has gone before and what you want to do for the year ahead. Now, I am tweaking that for my own purposes. And for me, a Wheel of Life spread is going to be using the decks that I use for certain readings, for certain categories. So, what does that mean? So, these are the decks that I use for specific readings. For example, inner child readings, shadow readings, love readings. So, I wanted to use one deck per category that I've assigned to my own personal Wheel of Life and pull a card from each deck. And that will make up my Wheel of Life spread. So it might be messy, it might be confusing, but I figured we'll give it a try. So, what I've identified is I want to start by evaluating the past year and the lessons that I've learned from that. So I will pull not just one card, but a couple of cards from the Way Home Tarot, because this will be my evaluation, sort of past year um, reflection deck. And then for the upcoming year, what I want to do is focus on what's in store for me or what areas I need to focus on in the upcoming year in 2025. So, this is my inner child deck, and I want to ask what I need to do for my inner child in 2025. How can I better integrate a shadow part in 2025? What can I expect, and how should I show up in my romantic life in 2025? And then this to me is more about introspection. So this is my introspection deck, self-development deck. So how can I um, go into myself more, and what do I need to develop for myself? And then I would look at what sparks my creativity. So this is my creative deck. And how can I branch out creatively? And finally, something to nourish the soul. So this is my soul reading deck for myself, my spiritual deck. So this I'll pull from for something to nourish my soul. So we have the Way Home Tarot, the Heartscape Tarot, the Lubanko Tarot, the Tarot of Aphrodite, the Burning Tiger Tarot, the Venus Morningstar Tarot, and the Lonely Dreamer Tarot, the third and final edition. So that's going to be my decks. Let's start. So we have the Way Home Tarot for my deck that I will be using to reflect on the past year, so 2024. So I always knock on a deck 3 times and then blow on all 4 sides. And then I will shuffle a couple of times. So for my past year, oh, this is interesting. Lessons that I've learned, what I had to deal with. One more card, maybe. What I had to overcome. Okay, we have the Empress, the Son of Pentacles, and the Ten of Cups. So I did start by asking what lessons I have learned. We have the Empress here, and it's really kind of, for me, this is stepping into my power, but also learning to regulate my emotions. This was a big year for me to really go into therapy, um, do the hard work, really look at some deep wounds and start the healing process, and kind of come out of that feeling like I've reclaimed something within me, something that is inherently part of my feminine side. Because I think my my more vulnerable, my more soft side, that doesn't necessarily mean that's a feminine side, but that side of me took quite a beating in previous years. And I really love this, that from sort of a wounded heart, there's a massive growth emerging. So that was my 2024. And the Empress is actually my birth card. So it's really lovely to see that show up here. So what have I gone through, or what have I, what was that year about for me? Not just lessons learned, but the mindset and the energy of that year for me was very Son of Pentacles. This is the Knight of Pentacles in the Way Home Tarot. And it really was like slow healing. The Knight of Pentacles is someone that is an archetype that really takes their time, and they put one foot in front of the other, whether it's climbing up a mountain or pushing a rock up a hill. They just know that they have to keep going, and they don't expect to see fast results. And there were moments in this year where I was just so tired of all the lessons learned, like, can I just please stop learning lessons? Like, I've learned it, I'm good. But this year was really about it being a marathon and not a sprint. And I had to pace myself, and I had setbacks, and I had to start again, and I just had to keep going at it. And what I overcame this year, 10 of Cups. So the 10 of Cups has a beautiful card, right? The card of family, the card of connection, the card of contentment and peace. And, well, let's just say that this was a trial year, a year of trial for this area of my life. A lot of things that I had to deal with in the family. Biggest one of all was my father getting sick, and he's healing right now, but that has affected a lot of things. And I had to reevaluate how I take care of myself, how I take care of my family, how I show up for myself, and how I show up for them. And I had to put some really important boundaries in place. And it was also a year that I overcame kind of, well, I know I'll have to overcome it again and again and again. But I think I was successful in setting new boundaries and not acting the martyr or choosing to be the martyr in my family. And that was a big deal for me. So that is my past year review with the Way Home Tarot. Next, we have, now we're looking into 2025. Okay, so now we are looking into 2025, and I want to start by nourishing my inner child. And this is my inner child deck. This is the Heartscape Tarot, and I want to just pull one card that will speak to my inner child for 2025. So the box is a little tight. This is the original edition. The second edition is available, but with different backs. So this one I can't riffle shuffle, so we will overhand it. One card that will speak to my inner child. Oh, but there were two. So we're gonna have to go with two. Okay. We have the Ace of Cups, and we have the Wheel of Fortune. Very fitting for my inner child for this Wheel of Life spread. The Ace of Cups is all about this pure, raw love. At least for me, that's what it is. And the Wheel of Fortune is that everything happens in its own time and place. Um, and that's just how life is. But for my inner child, I know that I've treated her unkindly in the past. And I struggle because my inner child is a part that I have often despised, seen as weak, because there was so much trauma that happened to her. And when she emerges and she asks for attention, I usually shut her down and I get confused as to why that part of me is still so vibrant and alive. And really, what the message is for this year is to find a way to love my inner child, to show up for her instead of invalidating her and treating her unkindly. How can I be kinder to myself? It's really a shift. It's a shift from how I've been seeing her. And that shift has started even yesterday when I was sending my therapist a message about how like something had triggered me and I felt really weak and naive and I felt like I despised that part of me. And I said, I don't want to despise that part of me. That's the part of me that's vulnerable and kind. And when you're vulnerable, you open yourself up to hurt, but you open yourself up to a lot of love and a lot of goodness. So for my inner child, when I find myself slipping back into that space of invalidating her, being unkind to her, I want to remember these cards that 2025 is a year to treat her kindly, show compassion, show up for her, and say, hey, I've got you. So that's for my inner child. Now, we are working with the shadow. This is the Lubanco Tarot, and it is coming mass market. Very excited for this. I believe in 2025 or 2026. I'm not sure. I think 2025. Anyway, this is a wonderfully raw, powerful deck that I use for shadow work. And I just love it. So let's get into it. This is another deck that I can't riffle shuffle, so I usually just overhand it. One card to represent how I should treat my shadow, or what is my shadow and how should I integrate it in 2025. I usually like to wait for a jumper with this deck, but if it doesn't come, it's fine. You just keep shuffling until I feel like it's ready. I think it is. My shadow. Three of Pentacles. Okay, so this is representing my shadow. I don't think I need another card. This is it. It's the Three of Pentacles. So I'm not used to asking for help. I really hate doing that. But I think this is definitely a shadow part that I need to integrate. Especially considering that I will be coming out of isolation, I guess. During the pandemic, my work shifted to a role that doesn't have me interact a lot with people. And because of that, even my social life with my friends suffered, because if I wasn't out of the house anyway, then like, why would I want to go out later in the day when I'm already tired from work? And I really feel that 2025 is a year of coming out of isolation. But there's a lot of shadow in that now. Whereas before, that used to be my biggest strength, now it is something that I fear. And that's hard for me to admit, but it's true. There were a lot of relationships that closed out for whatever reason. And I feel like I might run into people, and that's scary. Or what if I can't do a job in a team anymore because I'm so used to being on my own? And I've had to be so independent. Also, I'm the eldest in my family, my siblings, in an Asian family. So there's a lot of expectation to sort of be hyper independent, to be perfect, to be all these things. And I feel like I'm starting from scratch, and that's not an energy I'm familiar with because I hold a lot of my identity in the fact that I am competent and capable. So, this is definitely something I need to integrate and something I need to look at, that there is nothing wrong with healthy interdependence in a lot of areas, not just in work, but with friends, to reach out if I need someone. Um, Even last night, I actually called a friend. So I think I'm starting this. I actually called a friend just to say, hey, I'm just feeling these things right now. And it was a moment of vulnerability for sure. There are people that I can do that really easily with, but they're like two. I can count them on one hand. And it was opening up to a friend in a new way that I haven't before. And it was really, really lovely. And it was so well received. And it made me wonder why I had been scared to do that. So, for further exploration, probably not going to get so deep into it now, but this is definitely a shadow part that needs integration, that hyper independence of mine. Then we move to the deck that I use for pretty much exclusively for my love readings for myself, or if I want to connect to my sensuality, and this is a very important area of my life. Um, I've basically had to admit to myself that I am a relationship girly. As much as I would like to say that I really love being single, which I do, don't get me wrong, it can be both. I know that part of my life I want to find a partner. Um, and I don't know that I'll get that, but I do want it, and I just have to be honest that I want it. Really? Okay, for love reading, for the next year, we have the Priestess of Swords, which is the Knight of Swords in the Tarot of Aphrodite. And I will read from the guidebook because the way the creator has written the guidebook, it's very much in the style of affirming. So you don't see a lot of sort of shadow messages. You find affirmations to go beyond the shadow, which I really love. So let's try to pull up the Priestess of Swords. So the affirmation is, with swift action and clear vision, I overcome obstacles and forge ahead on my path. And the meaning here represents a deep connection to intuition and intellect, embodies wisdom, insight, and analytical thinking, also emphasizes the importance of objective thinking, logical analysis, and open mindedness, invites us to embrace our intellectual curiosity and seek truth and knowledge, reminds us to find a balance between our thoughts and our emotions, using our mental faculties to bring clarity and understanding to any situation. This card also stands for swift action and sometimes a cold and rough attitude. So, I don't know, like, I don't read love readings and say, oh, I'm going to be single or I'm going to be in a relationship. I have no idea how that plays out. But for me, the approach to this area of my life needs to be more balanced. And I lean heavily on heart versus head. And I've been getting better at it. I will say that 2024 was a year of improvement. But there were things that I overlooked, and I can't really blame anyone but myself for those things. I don't regret any of the choices that I made in exploring this area of my life this year, but certainly there's room for improvement. And if I need to be brutally honest with myself instead of being like, oh, but maybe this will go differently. So I need to be able to be brutally honest with myself when I'm interacting with, in this area, in this space. So yeah, I'm going to try and lean on this energy as I explore dating again. Okay, now we have the Burning Tiger Tarot. And this is a deck that I mostly use for introspection, self development. This could be career as well, but really it's about how I explore learning about myself And to me, that has always been through therapy, through ritual. So let's find out what this deck wants to say about that. It is a chunker of a deck, and I have smaller hands, although my fingers are quite big. But so I do have to split it. You can riffle shuffle it. It's beautiful cardstock. It's kind of like cross between like a mat and a rose petal, not quite all the way there. And it feels stiff, but it's actually very bendy. And probably one of the most beautiful backs I've ever seen. So let's see what we have for self-development, introspection. The Knight of Cups. I'm getting a lot of knights. Well, two, but still, it's a lot for me. Self-development and introspection. So in my previous card, like for love life, it was the Knight of Swords. Logic. In my self-development and my own introspection, it's the Knight of Cups. Not using my logic, but more, I think, really relating to my inner child as well. How can I love myself more in 2025? How can I love my body? Oh, there's sirens. I don't know if you can hear that, but apologies for that. Yeah, how can I overcome a lot of the insecurities that I have about myself? Look, I'm 40. My body is changing. I'm single. Like, I've been alone for quite a while. And it's not sad, but certainly there are insecurities that come up with that. So how do I romance myself? The Knight of Cups is one of those archetypes that wears his heart on his sleeve and just gives fully, and it may not always be right. And maybe this is not a healthy energy to take into my love life because Knight of Swords was there. But certainly for me, I'm so cold and cutting with myself. Whereas I need to be more that way in dating and less that way with myself. So, as far as self development, I would like to find more practices that allow me to lean more into myself, appreciate myself, not just like emotionally and intellectually, but physically. How do I learn to love my changing body? How do I see myself as beautiful when things look different? And there's a very strong, cultural like beauty mores and yeah, just beauty stereotypes. So that's what I'm going to be exploring for 2025. And then we have the Venus Morningstar Tarot for how I am going to expand creatively in 2025. So I love this deck. It is by the same creator as the Tarot of Aphrodite, but it has a very different vibe, a very different energy to it. Whereas for the Tarot of Aphrodite, I use it mainly for love readings, sensuality readings, like tapping into my sensuality. I tend to use this more for evoking some kind of fire within me, and I find that it's really, it's not a cold deck. Certainly the Tarot of Aphrodite is warmer in tone and vibes, in imagery, but this is not a cold deck to me. This is a very powerful, passionate deck. So as far as expanding my creativity, what should I lean on in 2025? Because I really believe that being creative, everyone is creative, and it gives you life, and you need to tap into that. Well, that's what I believe anyway. I love this. The star, the card of hope, the card of compassion, the card of good things are coming your way. So I will read from the guidebook because, again, I love how this creator sets up affirmations in her guidebook. So the affirmation here is, in the radiant glow of the morning star, I embrace the guiding light of hope and renewal. So this is all about hope, renewal, inspiration, blessings, something divine. And to me, it means being more creative in the tarot space. That is a creative outlet for me. Um, Last year, or this year rather, 2024, I finished my own tarot deck, which I created with the help of AI. And I've been selling that on Make Playing Cards. And I know that I've been itching to do another project where maybe it's an oracle deck, maybe it's a poetry deck. I don't know, but I want to do something in this space to help me sort of share what I've learned by meshing therapy and tarot. So, hoping that I'll be able to do that. And also, I think not just hoping, but encouraging myself that I can do this and that I have something of value to contribute. Finally, we have my soul deck, the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. Um, this deck is really the first indie deck that I felt an extremely deep connection with. And I love the guidebook. But it's just something that really, I don't know, I feel very, very connected to it. So for me, this deck is going to be what I need to do to nourish my soul in 2025. And it's beautiful linen cardstock. It isn't very thick, but I still like to shuffle it in piles just because I don't want to bend it or I'm not the best shuffler. But anyway, a soul deck for reading for the soul in 2025. I guess you could say this will be my tarot card of the year. I know that there are computations for that and calculations for that, but I mean, it's my spread. I can do whatever I want. So this one and this one. Intriguing. The Five of Wands and the Four of Swords. Now, whenever I see the Five of Wands, I'm not usually excited because to me it's a lot of conflict, it's a lot of contraction. But there there is medicine in every card, and that's something that I learned from Lindsay Mack. Definitely, I would consider her one of my tarot teachers. So I also want to go into the guidebook and go through what it says about the Five of Wands. For the Five of Wands, intense action shows a desire to prove oneself or to assert dominance. It can range from playful disagreement to something more destructive. It represents challenges, but most problems are solvable. Always look for common ground first, as opposed to pointing in the way out the ways in which you diverge. And then further in the guidebook, words from Dr. Esther Frankel Tishman, who is on YouTube as Mindful Tarot. So she goes into 3Ds here, which is part of her system for reading cards. And she sees this as competition, potential for conflict, but this particular image feels alive and free, and it's gorgeous. It doesn't give you that feeling of conflict to hurt. You have the butterflies, and yes, you have fire energy, but you also have the green here in the background, and it's beautiful. And she talks about how this card teaches us to meet each other at the height of our respective strength, the joy of using all your gifts. So everyone benefits. And honestly, when I see this, I think of a dear friend of mine from work. We were on the same team. We are still very good friends. We're no longer on the same team, but I remember when she and I would be on the same team, we had this level of healthy competition where we wanted to learn from each other. She was excellent in ways that I could never be excellent in, but she made me up my game. And I believe I did the same for her. And it was beautiful, and everyone benefited from it. So I think for this year, for my soul, for something to nourish my soul, excuse me, frog in my throat. I think it's more about learning from people, and not being intimidated, but also not only learning from people, but also not making myself small, that I can be iron that sharpens iron, that I can be as worthy, or I am, but that I need to believe it for myself, that I am as worthy, I have something to contribute, and I can show up and use my gifts and not be intimidated by someone else using their gifts. I need to learn from that. So that is the message of the Five of Wands for me. And also, I pulled the Four of Swords. So while this is frenetic energy, this is very calm, right? And this is frenetic energy in my expression, my outward expression. The swords to me are very internal, suit of the mind, suit of thinking, my internal landscape. And when you have the four, having that stability and having that sort of quiet in my mind, to nourish my soul, yes, I need to show up, but I need to balance that out with how do I come back to myself and what do I believe about myself and how is that balanced? And I think a lot of that is going to be really rooted in my tarot practice and in my therapy practice. How do I show up for myself at work, in tarot, in therapy? How do I express myself, but how do I also shelter myself? So it's finding that balance for 2025, and that's going to be what really nourishes my soul. So there you have it. This is my Wheel of Life spread. This is focusing on 2024, the lessons I've learned, the energy of that year, and what I've overcome, my inner child, what I need to nourish here, my romantic life, my love life, my personal life, the approach I need to take there for 2025. So starting from inner child, my shadow and what I need to integrate in 2025. Where do I need to develop myself further as far as introspection, as far as self development? How can I expand my creativity? And what would nourish my soul for the upcoming year? As always, thank you for joining me. And if you want to do this as well, I'll try to put a hashtag or something, maybe Wheel of Life 2025. I'm not sure. But just thank you for being here and being a part of my 2024. Have a good day. Bye.